So, as I promised, I am going to read you a portion of my book. I've been working on it for quite a while now. It's from my heart, dedicated to my husband, who is also my spiritual brother, my vault, my head, my friend, my playmate, and the love of my life. Let Him Hear You by Hera Flowers. 5 years old to 10 years old. I have a glimmer of a memory. May have been 5 years old. At 5 years old, when Dad asked me to whip my brother for wrongdoing, I cried and refused. Whether 5 or 6 years old, I think it was beyond my scope to be responsible to pay the bills, much less incorporate punishment on my sibling. Yes, this is where the mental abuse began. My mother cut my long hair around the same age, and I didn't consider that abusive, but she had her day. Just gearing up for it, I suppose. I could see jealousy in her eyes early on, rotten to the bone. I liked to sit on Dad's lap. Anyone's really. I suffered from not being touched much the first 10 days of my life because I was in an incubator. I had underdeveloped lungs when I was born, and they thought they were going to lose me. My dad and grandpa on his side couldn't bear to come see me, so as not to get attached, even visually. I look at it in the positive and see that they were united in their pain. I would have been like the rest of the family and drink in moments while I could, even if just visually and with the machine between us. But I recovered and started a life of seeking attention. First it was the lap of anyone, even strangers. La lap, la lap, I would say. I was starving for attention. I know light deprivation can cause serious problems in the human body. Similarly, love and touch deprivation would have far-reaching effects on me that I'm understanding more and more as I age. I just turned 50 in January. Woohoo! I have a slight recollection of my grandma on my mother's side, but she passed away from heart complications when she was in her 50s. That's why I take my medicine. So I try to take care of myself since it runs in the family. Soon after, I remember starting to be fascinated with my grandma on my dad's side. She was European, very bold. I loved the way she smelled, and I loved how she was a fountain of information about our family history. We talked for hours as we dipped our freshly peeled cucumbers in ranch dressing. She was my first best friend. She told me how she was tortured in a concentration camp. She fell in love with a soldier with the last name Rogers. He was Pennsylvania Dutch and had a wife back home in the States dying of cancer, and he wanted to be by her side. So my Nana let him go. My Nana did not tell Mr. Rogers that she was pregnant with his son, my dad. But I always smiled when I thought of my biological grandpa. She said he was really tall with blonde hair and blue eyes. I could tell that she still loved him and had peace in her heart, that she did not give him news that would distract him going home to say goodbye. I wish I could have met Mr. Rogers. I wish I could have met Mrs. Rogers. I'm sure she was a very special lady. I would wonder what he did after she passed away. I hoped he found someone like my grandma. She was on a mission to get to the States because her family had all been killed and she wanted a better life. The man who brought her to this country was married to my Nana as well as someone else and very abusive, so this union did not last long. After the divorce, my precious Nana found my papa, a gentle and quiet man who cared for her the rest of their lives. He gave her life stability and peace as they built their life on godly standards and mutual respect. Their home was the only stability and light in my dark childhood. We stayed with them many times when my father was out of work. Some winters I remember building fires in her iron fireplace and enclosing her porch in sheets of plastic so as to protect so as to provide protection for her many cat friends. It was so it was so cozy sleeping next to that warmth and comfort that didn't exist while I was away. Summers at Nana's was a true vacation. Running on the edge of the river at the beginning of the season, our bare feet were tender but toughened up very quickly, with daily trips as we only had to run down the hill to enjoy swimming and fishing. It was truly my closest I was truly my closest brother's shadow. He was a year and a half older than me. He taught me all I knew about this wonderland. The best place to catch minnows were the rapids, the way to put a hook and bobber on a line, the way to scale and clean a fish, and my favorite, how to cook that fish. You cannot get any fresher than that. From river to plate, all on the same day. What great joy I felt learning from him. Quite opposite from my oldest brother, who I had much less in common with. The way he expressed himself was odd to me, and I had a very hard time following his way of conversing, mostly about himself. Children learn very quickly who they're attracted to, and my closest brother had a sense of humor that brought light to my world. I really think it saved me from childhood depression to see his humility and patience, even in the little things, helped calm my mind and heart. But as the years progressed, this connection also hurt when he got old enough to pick on me. He knew how to make me laugh and cry. I didn't mind getting in trouble with him because it meant that I could have the freedom to have fun with him too. We were disciplined for reasons we didn't understand or think was fair. I just expected a beating on a regular basis. First, my dad would beat us with his words saying, "All I want is results," which is not a clear reason to give a 6-year-old 100 licks with a coat hanger on bare skin. He would invite all 4 of us kids into my brother's room. Then we would be mentally abused with a long conversation that was better suited for an adult being told why they were being fired from a company. The only times I understood why I was being beat was when I had broken a silence my dad loved to impose on us. To not allow a child to express themselves on a daily basis verbally is sick and twisted. This punishment was imposed on and off throughout my childhood, sometimes for weeks at a time. Later, friends of the family, who had no idea what was going on behind dark doors, would ask, why was I so quiet? My parents took my wings away. I didn't need help in that department because I tended to be shy anyway. But these tactics sealed the lid on my personality. My mother even said that I did not have a personality. What an awful thing to say to a child trying to grow. That child should be lifted up, not rubbed into the dirt. I was also very clumsy because I grew very fast. For icing on the cake, my mother would say that I could not walk down the sidewalk while chewing gum without tripping on the cracks. Last thing I needed to hear as a young girl trying to figure out how to use these limbs that were growing so fast. I even got taller than my 2 brothers for a whole summer, even though they were 2 and 3 years older than me. So many leg cramps were normal for me, and I just swallowed the terrible things that were said by the woman I was supposed to look up to as an example of how to show love. Instead, she became a follower of my dad and his partner in true criminal activity. So she would let him take the fruit of her womb into this room, to mentally and physically abuse. I found out later in life that she would go into the bathroom and run the faucets on high so that it would drown out our cries. A woman faithful to all she claimed to believe in would have rescued us by going to the authorities. But she didn't have the spine. My first beating I touched on earlier was 100 strokes at 6 years old. My brother tried to help me by whispering in my ear one word: count. I think he was just trying to share what had worked for him, no telling how many times before. I took his advice, and I think it kept my mind alert and helped me to keep from passing out. I would continue to use this tip for the next 12 years. Before each beating, I would ask my father how many strokes he was planning on giving me, and he would satisfy me with an answer. Sometimes 2 more, sometimes 2 less if I was fortunate. It was hard to see my brothers jump up and down in anticipation of our beatings. I only recall having to watch them get beat once or twice, but not my choice. Every chance I got, I would ask to go first. I would rather have my dad's untired 19-inch biceps than watch my brothers get theirs. Boys should grow to be confident men that can take care of their families, not full of fear and lacking safety in their home as children. How do you follow when you haven't had a decent role model for your whole childhood? Where do you develop qualities to be strong and brave? A child that has a positive role model can keep many inherited mental problems at bay. Yes, they may surface as they grow, but they can be dealt with in a mature way, and as you come across them, they don't feel like they're suffocating you. But when a parent adds to or is the reason behind the onset of mental illness, they will be accountable to the higher power who sees all. I see my adult friends treating their children with love and respect at church and running errands. I mean, it's beautiful. Encouraging their natural talents and bringing courage and comfort to their children, knowing their home environment is a safe place to grow. My running joke is, would you be my parents? Would you adopt me? I know it's a beautiful thing to be treasured as you grow, because I have put down roots for the last decade and have seen the families around me grow. My friends, my spiritual family, and could never imagine what was going through my parents' brain to put their hands on a precious child in a negative way. It really blows my mind. There had to be serious brain damage to my parents' thinking. As I grow, I learned about some of the trauma my parents experienced as children. Some can only pass on what they know. Others, however, choose to break the cycle and treat living things as a gift from above. Being proactive is very important, as is early communication in a marriage. Being on the same page as a couple is vital. I tell my partner everything about my moods, my cycle, my time when intimacy is safe for us, because we don't want to have a child. If we were to conceive, it would rock our world and affect us both. So why not let my partner in on the cycles of my body that could lead to bringing a child into this world? We became one when we got married. Why not make life decisions as one? My mother wanted children. My father told us many times that he did not want children. So here's the problem. The woman has the upper hand because she has the womb. She can keep many secrets. The man has desire, and this desire can be held against him. This was the example I grew to hate. More to come. Thank you for listening. I love you. All my neighbors around the world.